My name is Rodney Williams, 67 years old, and I never thought my own son would betray me. I was still half asleep when William and his wife Amanda showed up at my door that Sunday morning, saying they wanted to take me to breakfast. Instead, they drove me to Sunny Pines retirement home and told me this was my new home. They had already sold my house, my car, everything I owned. I was left with nothing but the clothes on my back and a devastating truth. While I tell you how I turned the tables on my ungrateful son, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you believe families should never treat each other as disposable. For 38 years, I taught American history at Lincoln High School. I loved my job opening young minds to the lessons of the past, hoping they would build a better future. I retired 5 years ago, just months before my beloved wife Martha was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. We had big plans for our golden years, traveling the country in our modest RV, visiting historical sites I had taught about for decades. Instead, I spent our final year together as her caretaker, watching the vibrant woman I married fade away day by day. After Martha passed, I found myself alone in our 3-bedroom colonial in Mapleton, a quiet suburb with tree-lined streets and neighbors who still brought casseroles when someone was sick. The house was nothing fancy, but we had paid off the mortgage years ago. It represented security and 4 decades of memories. Every corner held echoes of the life we built, from the height marks on the kitchen doorframe tracking William's growth to the living room where Martha and I danced on our 40th anniversary. I kept myself busy after retirement and Martha's passing. My garden became my therapy, the backyard transformed into a colorful sanctuary of perennials and vegetables. Martha's roses still bloomed each summer, and tending them made me feel connected to her. I had a small woodworking shop in the detached garage where I built birdhouses and furniture for my grandkids. 3 times a week, I met my old teaching colleagues for coffee at the local diner. Life was quiet but comfortable. Financially, I was stable. My teacher's pension wasn't extravagant, but combined with Social Security and Martha's life insurance, I had enough to live comfortably. I had decent health insurance through the state teacher's retirement system. My investments were conservative but steady, managed by the same financial advisor Martha and I had trusted for 20 years. I had always been careful with money, a habit formed during my childhood in a working-class family where every dollar was stretched. My son William was my only child. Martha had complications during his birth that prevented us from having more children, so we poured all our parental love and attention into him. He had been a good kid, if somewhat entitled at times. Martha and I worked hard to give him opportunities we never had, from private tennis lessons to a debt-free college education at a respected state university. He now worked as a mid-level manager at a financial services firm, married to Amanda, a real estate agent with expensive tastes. They had given us 2 wonderful grandchildren, Tyler and Sophia, now 12 and 9. When the kids were younger, Martha and I would babysit every weekend, taking them to museums, parks, and making cookies in our kitchen. Those days seemed distant now. Since Martha died, I saw less and less of William and his family. At first, he would call weekly, invite me to Sunday dinners once a month, bring the kids by on holidays. But gradually, the calls became monthly, the invitations quarterly, the visits rare. I noticed the change, but chalked it up to busy lives. William and Amanda both worked long hours, the kids had their activities, and I understood that a widowed father-in-law wasn't anyone's priority. Still, the distance hurt. Martha had been the family glue, organizing gatherings, remembering birthdays, keeping everyone connected. Without her, the bonds weakened. The first real warning sign came 3 months ago. I had a minor fall in my bathroom. Nothing serious, just a slip that left me with a bruised hip and a sprained wrist. A neighbor found me and insisted on taking me to the emergency room for an X-ray. Somehow, between the neighbor calling William and the hospital discharge, my small accident became a crisis in my son's eyes. "Dad, you can't live alone anymore," William declared in the hospital waiting room, Amanda nodding vigorously beside him. "We have the guest room all ready. You'll move in with us." I was taken aback. "William, it was a simple fall. The doctor said nothing's broken. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself." "But what if you had hit your head or broken your hip? You could have laid there for days before anyone found you." Amanda chimed in, her voice dripping with a concern that didn't reach her eyes. I stood firm. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm staying in my home. I have friends who check on me. I'm active in the community. My life is there." William's jaw tightened in that way it had since childhood when he didn't get his way. "At least think about downsizing, Dad. That house is too big for one person. The maintenance alone must be overwhelming. I manage just fine, I assured him. The house is paid for. My expenses are minimal there. The conversation ended uneasily, but I thought the matter was settled. I was wrong. Over the following weeks, William and Amanda began a campaign. They would drop by unannounced, pointing out minor maintenance issues as evidence I couldn't handle the house. Amanda would mention friends who had made a killing selling their parents' homes in the current market. This neighborhood has become so desirable, she would say, walking through my living room with appraising eyes. You could sell for triple what you and Mom paid. Think of the nest egg. I didn't need a nest egg. I needed my home, my garden, my workshop, my independence. The situation escalated when they began bringing real estate agents to the house, introducing them as friends who happened to be in the neighborhood. One particularly awkward Sunday, I returned from church to find Amanda giving a tour to a couple while William showed another agent my backyard. I ordered everyone out immediately. "This is my home and it's not for sale," I stated firmly, holding the door open. "Please don't do this again." William had the grace to look embarrassed, but Amanda was furious. "We're only trying to help you plan for the future," she hissed as they left. That night I went looking for my important documents just to make sure they were secure. To my horror, I discovered that the folder containing my house deed insurance policies and bank statements had been disturbed. Copies of several documents were missing. A cold feeling settled in my stomach as I realized my own son might be plotting something. But even in my growing suspicion, I never imagined how far they would go. The day that changed everything began ordinarily enough. It was a sunny Sunday morning in late April. I was enjoying my coffee and reading the newspaper when the doorbell rang just after 8:30. I wasn't expecting anyone, especially not this early on a weekend. I opened the door to find William and Amanda standing there, both dressed nicely and wearing bright smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. "Surprise, Dad," William announced. "We thought we'd take you out for breakfast at that diner you like." Something felt off immediately. William rarely showed up unannounced, and Amanda usually avoided the greasy spoon diner I frequented with my former colleagues. But loneliness makes us overlook warning signs sometimes, and I was happy at the prospect of spending time with my son. "Let me grab my wallet and keys," I said, turning back toward the kitchen. "Oh, we'll drive," Amanda interjected quickly. "No need to worry about anything." "Still, I should lock up properly," I insisted. William followed me inside. As I gathered my things, he hovered unusually close. "Don't you want to change, Dad? Maybe put on something nicer?" I looked down at my clean flannel shirt and khakis. "For Millie's diner, this is fine." "Well, we might go somewhere else after breakfast," he said vaguely. "Maybe take a drive. It's such a nice day." "Where are we going?" "Just a surprise," William said, his voice artificially cheerful. "Nothing to worry about." I changed into a button-down shirt to appease him, though my suspicion was growing. As we walked to their SUV, Amanda added another strange comment. "You don't need to bring that backpack, Rodney. We won't be gone long." The backpack contained just a book, my medication, and a light jacket, things I routinely carried when going out. Her insistence that I leave it behind made me even more uneasy, but I complied, leaving everything but my wallet and phone. In the car, the conversation felt strained. William asked about my garden but interrupted my answer to point out a new building. Amanda mentioned the weather repeatedly. Neither would give a straight answer about our destination. When I directly asked if we were really going to breakfast, William's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "We're going to check out a place first," he finally admitted. "Just to look." We drove for about 20 minutes, leaving our familiar suburb behind and entering an area I rarely visited. When William turned into a long, winding driveway marked by a discreet sign reading Sunny Pines Retirement Community, my heart sank. "What is this about?" I demanded. "Just hear us out, Dad," William said as he parked. "This is a really nice place. They have activities, medical staff on site, meals provided, all the comforts you could want." "I'm not interested in a retirement home," I stated firmly. "Take me back." "Just take the tour," Amanda urged, already opening her door. "You might change your mind." Reluctantly, I got out of the car, figuring I would politely decline after the tour and put an end to this nonsense. The building was pleasant enough from the outside, modern and well-maintained with manicured grounds. A smiling woman in a blue blazer greeted us at the entrance. "You must be Mr. Williams. We're so excited to welcome you to Sunny Pines," she gushed, extending her hand. I shook it automatically, confusion growing. "I'm just here to look around," I clarified. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face as she glanced at William. Oh, well, your room is all ready, but of course we can start with a tour. Room. My room. I turned to William, who avoided my gaze. As the woman who introduced herself as Director Simmons led us through the facility, the awful truth began to dawn on me. This wasn't a casual visit or informational tour. The staff knew my name. They had a file with my medical information. They referred to specific arrangements that had already been made. When we reached a small apartment-style room on the second floor, Director Simmons proudly opened the door. "And here's your new home, Mr. Williams. We've prepared it according to your son's specifications." The room contained a hospital-style bed, a small sitting area, and basic furniture that bore no resemblance to my comfortable home. A few of my personal items were already there. My reading glasses on the nightstand, some family photos on the dresser, my favorite sweater hanging in the open closet. "What is the meaning of this?" I demanded, turning to William. My voice shook with anger and disbelief. Director Simmons sensed the tension and excused herself, saying she would give us a moment to talk. As soon as she left, I confronted my son. "William, explain yourself, now." His facade cracked. "Dad, we've arranged for you to stay here. It's a great facility, one of the best rated in the state. You'll have care activities, people your own age around." Arranged without my knowledge or consent, I never agreed to this. Amanda stepped forward. "Rodney, be reasonable. After your fall, it's clear you can't manage alone anymore. We've taken care of everything." "Taken care of what exactly?" My suspicion deepened. William shifted uncomfortably. "We've handled the house situation." "What does that mean, William?" I pressed, a cold dread settling in my stomach. "We sold the house," he finally admitted. "The closing was last week." The room seemed to spin around me. "You sold my house? How is that even possible? I never signed anything." William couldn't meet my eyes. "I used the power of attorney you gave me after Mom died. It was for emergencies, but this qualified as one. You're not safe living alone, Dad." I remembered signing that document, intended only for medical decisions if I were incapacitated. Never had I imagined my own son would use it to sell my home from under me. And my belongings. My workshop, Martha's garden. My voice cracked at the thought of losing these precious connections to my life and wife. "We saved the important things," Amanda assured me. "Photo albums, some furniture. The rest, well, the house needed to be emptied for the new owners." "New owners move in next week," William added. "They're a nice young couple with a baby on the way. They love the neighborhood." I felt physically ill. "And my car?" Another uncomfortable glance between them. "Sold," William confirmed. "You won't need it here. There's a shuttle for residents." My entire life had been liquidated without my knowledge. I sank into the unfamiliar armchair, struggling to comprehend the betrayal. "How could you do this?" I asked, looking at my son, searching for any trace of the boy I had raised. "It's for your own good, Dad," he insisted, though he couldn't hold my gaze. "The proceeds from the house and car have paid for 2 years here up front. You'll be comfortable, safe. The rest is being managed for your future needs." "Managed by whom?" I asked sharply. "By me, of course," William replied, "as your financial caretaker." The pieces clicked into horrible place. This wasn't about my welfare. This was about my assets, my house in its desirable neighborhood, my savings, my life reduced to dollar signs. "Get out," I said quietly. "Dad, be reasonable," William started. "Get out," I shouted, rising from the chair. "I want both of you out of my sight." Amanda tugged on William's arm. "Let's go. He'll calm down eventually. They all do." They all do. The casual cruelty of her words suggested this wasn't the first time she had been involved in such a scheme. William hesitated at the door. "We've brought some of your clothes and personal items. The staff will help you settle in. We'll bring the kids to visit when you're feeling more reasonable." "Don't bother," I said coldly. After they left, I sat alone in the sterile room that was supposed to be my new home, surrounded by the few possessions they had deemed important enough to save. My house, my garden, my workshop, my independence, all gone. Sold by the son I had raised, the son for whom Martha and I had sacrificed so much. In that moment of utter betrayal, something hardened within me. This would not be the end of my story. William and Amanda had grossly underestimated me. They thought I was a helpless old man they could discard and rob with impunity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The first night at Sunny Pines was the longest of my life. I lay awake in the unfamiliar bed listening to the strange sounds of the facility, a symphony of distant coughs, squeaking carts, and the occasional call bell. The reality of my situation pressed down on me like a physical weight. My room, while clean, lacked any real comfort or personality. The walls were painted a bland beige, the carpet an institutional gray. The bed was firmer than I liked, with sheets that smelled of industrial detergent rather than the lavender fabric softener Martha had always used, and I had continued using after her death. Through the thin wall, I could hear my neighbor's television blaring a game show until well past midnight. From the window, I had a view not of my beloved garden, but of the parking lot cars coming and going under harsh security lights. The bathroom was fitted with safety rails and an emergency pull cord, practical but stark reminders that this place was designed for the infirm. The shower chair and raised toilet made me feel ancient, though I had no need for either. That first morning, I barely left my room. A cheerful aide named Brenda brought breakfast on a tray, chattering about the day's activities, a well-meaning but unwelcome intrusion into my misery. I picked at the rubbery eggs and toast, my appetite non-existent. "The social director is doing a welcome orientation at 10 in the main lounge," Brenda informed me. "Great way to meet your new neighbors." I thanked her and promised to consider it, though I had no intention of attending. Instead, I spent the morning methodically going through the possessions William and Amanda had deemed worthy of my new life. 3 photo albums out of the 12 I had kept. A handful of clothes, mostly casual wear, none of my nicer suits, or the tweed jacket with leather elbow patches that my students had teased me about, but that Martha had loved. My wedding band and watch, a few books, but none of my rare history volumes or first editions. The weight of what I had lost was overwhelming. Not just material possessions, though those hurt enough, but the evidence of a life well lived. The garden Martha and I had nurtured for decades, the workshop where I had taught William to build his first birdhouse, the kitchen where we had hosted countless holiday dinners, all gone. Around noon, unable to bear the confines of my room any longer, I ventured out. The hallway was quiet, most residents apparently at lunch in the dining room. I wasn't ready for more socializing, so I followed signs to a small courtyard garden. The space was pleasant enough, with several benches and raised flower beds. An elderly woman sat alone on a bench, her silver hair catching the sunlight. She looked up as I approached, sharp eyes assessing me. "New arrival?" she asked without preamble. I nodded, taking a seat on the neighboring bench. "Voluntary or drafted?" She had a direct way of speaking that reminded me of some of my more forthright colleagues. "Drafted," I admitted. "My son and daughter-in-law, yesterday." She nodded knowingly. "Eleanor Simmons, former family law attorney. My daughter decided my downtown condo would make a perfect investment property for my grandchildren's college fund." She extended a hand, which I shook. "Been here 3 weeks, still plotting my escape." Her candor startled a laugh out of me, the first since this nightmare began. "Rodney Williams, former history teacher. My house was apparently too valuable to waste on just keeping me housed." "Ah, real estate." Eleanor nodded. "The modern elder abuse. So much more civilized than locking us in attics, but the principle is the same." Over the next hour, Eleanor proved to be not just a sympathetic ear, but a fount of useful information. She had spent 40 years practicing family law before retiring, specializing in elder rights toward the end of her career. Now, she found herself on the receiving end of the very issues she had fought against. "The trick is not to let them see you crumble," she advised. "They expect tears, confusion, eventual resignation. That's the usual pattern. Break the pattern and you regain some power." As we talked, another resident joined us, a tall, lean man with a military bearing who introduced himself as Hank Sullivan, former accountant and 7-year resident of Sunny Pines. "Your situation isn't unusual," Hank told me grimly after hearing my story. "I came here by choice after my wife died, sold my house myself, and managed my own finances. But I've seen too many brought in like you, shell-shocked and robbed." "Is there anything I can do?" I asked. "Legally, I mean. They used a power of attorney I granted for medical emergencies." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Medical power of attorney doesn't typically grant authority to sell property. Do you have a copy of the document?" "No," I admitted. "It was in my files at home." "We'll need to get a copy," she said decisively. "There's a good chance your son exceeded his authority." Over the next few days, I met more allies at Sunny Pines. Mary Ann, the head nurse, took a particular interest in my case after overhearing part of my conversation with Eleanor. Unlike some of the more institutionalized staff, she recognized the injustice of my situation. My father went through something similar with my brother. she confided one evening as she brought my medication. "I've seen it too many times. Not everyone who ends up here belongs here." Jose, the night security guard, became another unexpected ally. A retired police officer working part-time for extra income, he had a strong sense of justice and a dislike for entitled family members who dump their parents like unwanted furniture. As he put it, "My mother lives with us," he told me during one of his rounds. "It's not always easy, but family is family. You don't discard people when they become inconvenient." With Jose's help, I gained access to the facility's computer room after hours when it wasn't monitored. There, I began researching my legal options and reaching out to old contacts. My first call was to Marcus Johnson, a former student who now worked as a branch manager at my bank. "Mr. Williams." "This is a surprise," Marcus said when I reached him. "Is everything all right? Your son was in last week asking about your accounts." My blood ran cold. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing without proper authorization," Marcus assured me. "We take privacy seriously. But he seemed to think he had full access to your finances. When I explained he would need more than just a power of attorney for certain transactions, he wasn't happy." "Marcus, I need your help," I said, explaining my situation. To his credit, my former student was outraged. "That's elder abuse, Mr. Williams, financial exploitation. We can put a freeze on your accounts immediately to prevent unauthorized access." My next call was to Peter Daniels, an old teaching colleague who had left education to pursue law before eventually retiring. Peter's specialty had been property law. "They can't just sell your house using a medical power of attorney," Peter confirmed after hearing my story. "There are very specific powers granted in those documents, and property disposal typically isn't one unless explicitly stated. So the sale could be invalid." Hope flickered for the first time. "Potentially, yes," Peter said cautiously, "but these cases can be complicated. We need to see the exact document you signed and how it was used. I have a colleague still practicing who specializes in elder law. Let me reach out to her." With Eleanor's legal background, Hank's financial expertise, and my growing network of supporters, I began formulating a plan. I wasn't just going to accept what William and Amanda had done. I was going to fight back, reclaim my independence, and ensure they faced consequences for their actions. The depression that had initially engulfed me transformed into determination. I started attending activities at Sunny Pines, not because I accepted my placement there, but because it allowed me to appear compliant while gathering resources and allies. I joined a current events discussion group where I met several sharp-minded retirees who were equally outraged by my situation and offered their own connections and advice. Each night, I documented everything I could remember about my financial affairs, my property, and the events leading to my current situation. Eleanor reviewed my notes, helping me organize them into what could become legal evidence. "Your son made a critical mistake," she told me after about 2 weeks of investigation. "He got greedy and moved too fast. If he had taken smaller steps over time, it might have been harder to fight, but this blatant action gives us leverage." Through Jose's connection with a retired detective, we discovered William and Amanda had been inquiring about other properties in my name, including a small vacation cabin that had belonged to Martha's family that I had nearly forgotten about. They were attempting to access everything. "They won't stop with what they've already taken," Hank warned me. "People like this, once they start, they want it all." Armed with this knowledge and growing evidence of their financial exploitation, I was ready to move from investigation to action. My time at Sunny Pines had shown me I wasn't alone, and I wasn't helpless. William and Amanda had awakened not a defeated old man, but a determined fighter with unexpected allies and resources. The game they had started was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. With Eleanor and Peter's guidance, my counteroffensive began to take shape. Peter's former colleague Jennifer Martinez took my case pro bono after hearing the circumstances. As a specialist in elder law, she was all too familiar with cases like mine. "What your son did crosses several legal lines," Jennifer explained during our first meeting conducted secretly in Sunny Pines Visitor Lounge while William believed I was at physical therapy. "Using a medical power of attorney to sell property is a clear overreach of authority." Jennifer was in her early 40s, sharp and efficient, with a no-nonsense manner that inspired confidence. She spread documents across the table, pointing out key issues. "First, we need to obtain a copy of the power of attorney document you signed. I've already submitted a request to your son's attorney citing your legal right to review any document bearing your signature." "He has an attorney?" I asked, surprised. "Of course. People who do this kind of thing often get legal advice, albeit poor advice, to give their actions a veneer of legitimacy. Jennifer outlined our strategy. We would start by challenging the validity of the house sale based on the misuse of the power of attorney. Simultaneously, we would file for an emergency injunction to prevent any further disposal of my assets. Finally, we would document the deceptive manner in which I was placed at Sunny Pines, potentially building toward charges of elder abuse. Meanwhile, Marcus helped me secure my remaining financial resources. Though William had accessed some of my accounts, he had been unable to touch my teacher's retirement pension, or a small investment account I had opened years ago under slightly different name variations, which had apparently made it invisible to his searches. "I've set up new secure accounts only you can access," Marcus explained over the phone. "And I've documented all inquiries William made about your finances. It establishes a pattern of behavior that could be valuable in court." Through Hank's financial expertise, I learned that the proceeds from my house sale, after paying for 2 years at Sunny Pines up front, had been moved to an account in William's name as trustee. The amount was substantial, given the hot real estate market and the desirability of my neighborhood. "He's already spent some of it," Hank reported grimly, reviewing the information his former banking colleague had quietly provided. "New car for Amanda, paid off some credit card debt. They're burning through your money, Rodney." The betrayal stung anew, but I channeled the pain into resolve. While Jennifer built our legal case, I focused on practical matters for my eventual independence. Jose helped me slip away from Sunny Pines occasionally to meet with Frank Torres, another former teaching colleague who owned several small rental properties. "I've got a 1-bedroom cottage that's vacant," Frank told me over coffee at a diner far from Sunny Pines. "Nothing fancy, but it's all on one level, got a small yard. Previous tenant moved out last month and I haven't listed it yet. It's yours if you want it, Rodney. Fair rent, month-to-month lease." "I'll take it," I said immediately. The cottage would be a fraction of the size of my former home, but it represented something priceless: freedom. With a destination secured, I needed resources to restart my life. I made a careful inventory of what little I had at Sunny Pines and what I would need: clothes, furniture, kitchen basics, all the mundane necessities I had taken for granted until they were stripped away. Marianne and several other sympathetic staff members quietly collected donated items from church groups and community organizations, storing them in Frank's garage until I could make my move. As our plans progressed, I had to maintain the appearance of a compliant, accepting resident at Sunny Pines. I attended activities aid in the dining room with other residents, even joined a book club. All the while, I was gathering allies and information, strengthening my position for the confrontation to come. 3 weeks into my stay, William finally visited. He came alone without Amanda or the children on a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in the common room playing chess with Hank when he arrived. "Dad," he greeted me cautiously, clearly unsure of his reception. "You're looking well. Settling in okay?" I kept my expression neutral, determined not to reveal the rage and hurt that still simmered beneath the surface. "Hello, William. What brings you by?" He shifted uncomfortably under my steady gaze. "Just checking how you're doing. The staff says you've been participating, making friends." "The staff reports to you about me?" I asked mildly, though the realization that I was being monitored angered me further. "I just want to make sure you're adjusting well," he said defensively. "This is a big change." "A change I never asked for," I reminded him. "A change you forced upon me." William sighed. "Dad, we've been over this. It was necessary for your safety and well-being. And the sale of my house, was that for my well-being too?" A flash of guilt crossed his face before he composed himself. "The proceeds are secured for your care. That house was too much for you to handle alone." I moved a chess piece, capturing Hank's bishop. "Check," I said to Hank, then turned back to William. "How are the children? I miss them." The change of subject seemed to relieve William. "They're good. Tyler made the honor roll again. Sophia's taking ballet now." "I'd like to see them," I said, genuinely missing my grandchildren. "Of course," William agreed quickly. "Once you're fully settled, it's been an adjustment for them too, understanding why Grandpa needed to move." "And what exactly did you tell them?" I asked, curious about how he had justified his actions. William hesitated. "That you needed special care we couldn't provide at home." "I see," I said quietly. "So you lied to them too." The conversation grew strained after that. William attempted to discuss the advantages of Sunny Pines, from the activities to the medical staff on site. I responded with non-committal answers, letting him believe I was grudgingly accepting my situation. Before leaving, William asked about my finances, a question that confirmed my suspicions about his continued interest in my assets. "I've noticed some unusual activity in your accounts," he mentioned casually. "Have you been making withdrawals?" "Why would I need to withdraw money?" I asked innocently. "All my needs are met here, as you keep reminding me." William frowned. "Still, as your financial caretaker, I should be informed of any transactions." "I'll keep that in mind," I said, revealing nothing. After he left, Hank gave me a knowing look. "He's noticed something's up." "Then we need to move faster," I replied, making my decision. "It's time to put our plan into action." Jennifer had already filed our legal challenges, and a court date was set for the following month. But I wasn't going to wait passively in Sunny Pines until then. With my allies' help, I began final preparations for my departure and the confrontation that would follow. 2 days after William's visit, during a routine check of my room, a nurse found some of Jennifer's legal documents I had accidentally left visible. By the time I returned from lunch, the director had been informed and William had been called. "Your son is on his way." Director Simmons informed me, her expression concerned. "He's quite upset about these legal papers. He says, you're not in a condition to be making these kinds of decisions." "I'm perfectly competent," I stated firmly, "and I have the right to legal counsel." "Of course," she agreed quickly, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "But there seems to be some confusion about your placement here and your son's authority." I looked her straight in the eye. "There's no confusion, Director. My son placed me here against my will and sold my home without my consent. I'm challenging those actions legally." Before she could respond, William burst into the room, face flushed with anger. "What are you doing, Dad?" he demanded, waving the legal papers a nurse had apparently sent him photos of. "Suing me after everything I've done for you." "Everything you've done to me," I corrected calmly. "Selling my home, taking my possessions, placing me here without consent. Yes, I'm challenging those actions." William turned to Director Simmons. "My father is clearly confused and being manipulated by someone. He signed over financial power of attorney to me. He's not capable of making these decisions." "I never signed a financial power of attorney," I stated clearly. "Only a limited medical one which you misused." "This is ridiculous," William sputtered. "He needs to be evaluated for cognitive decline. And I want his phone and internet access restricted. Someone is taking advantage of him." Director Simmons looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Williams, we can't restrict residents' communication without medical justification." "Then get a doctor to evaluate him," William insisted. "And I want to know who brought these legal papers here." I stood up, surprising both of them with my firmness. "William, you're the one who will be evaluated by a judge. Your actions constitute elder abuse and financial exploitation. I suggest you leave now and consult your attorney. You're going to need one." William stared at me, shocked by my strength and clarity. For a moment I saw a flicker of the little boy I had raised caught in a lie and realizing the consequences were coming. Then his expression hardened. "You'll regret this, Dad," he said coldly. "I was trying to help you. Now you'll have nothing and no one." After he stormed out, Director Simmons turned to me with new respect in her eyes. "Mr. Williams, I had no idea about the circumstances of your admission. If you were brought here under false pretenses." "I was," I confirmed, "and I'll be leaving as soon as my legal matters are arranged." That night, knowing William might try to prevent my departure, I put our evacuation plan into action. Jose helped me slip out a side entrance during shift change where Eleanor was waiting in a taxi. We went directly to the cottage Frank had prepared for me, stocked with basic necessities by my growing network of supporters. For the first time in a month, I slept in a space that, while not my beloved home, was at least of my own choosing. The next morning, Jennifer called with news the judge had granted our emergency injunction, temporarily freezing the remaining proceeds from my house sale and preventing William from making any further financial decisions in my name. The battle was far from over, but I had reclaimed my freedom and taken the first step toward justice. William had expected a docile, defeated old man he could discard and rob. Instead, he was facing a determined father with unexpected resources and a growing resolve to not only regain what was taken from me, but to ensure he faced consequences for his betrayal. As I stood in the small kitchen of my new temporary home making coffee in an unfamiliar pot, I felt something I hadn't experienced since that fateful Sunday morning hope. And beneath the hope, a steely determination. William and Amanda had started this war. I intended to finish it. The small cottage quickly became my command center. Within days of my escape from Sunny Pines, Jennifer had secured a court date for a preliminary hearing, and we were preparing our case against William and Amanda. "We have solid evidence of financial exploitation," Jennifer explained as we reviewed documents spread across my new kitchen table. "The misuse of the medical power of attorney, the unauthorized sale of your property, the attempt to access all your accounts. It's a textbook case." Eleanor, who had become both a friend and informal legal consultant, nodded in agreement. "The judge will likely rule in your favor on the financial matters. The question is whether William will face criminal charges or just civil penalties." I was conflicted about pursuing criminal charges against my own son despite his betrayal. "I want justice, not vengeance," I told them. "I want my remaining assets returned and protected, and I want William to understand the gravity of what he's done." "That's reasonable," Jennifer acknowledged, "but you should be prepared, Rodney. William and Amanda won't go down without a fight, especially now that they've spent some of the money." She was right. 2 days after I left Sunny Pines, William hired an aggressive attorney who immediately filed counterarguments claiming I was mentally incompetent and that William had acted in my best interest. They demanded I undergo cognitive evaluation and suggested Eleanor and my other new friends were manipulating me for financial gain. "Standard defense tactics," Eleanor scoffed when we received the filings. "Deflect, attack the victim's capacity, villainize the supporters. I've seen it 100 times." Though I had anticipated resistance, William's willingness to publicly question my mental capacity stung deeply. This was the son I had taught to ride a bike, helped with homework sent to college. Now, he was willing to declare me incompetent to protect himself. I agreed to the cognitive evaluation, confident in my mental faculties. The court-appointed psychologist spent 3 hours with me conducting various tests and assessments. "Mr. Williams, you're sharper than most of my colleagues," she concluded with a smile. "There's absolutely no evidence of cognitive decline or impairment." Her report was a significant victory, undermining a key component of William's defense. But the legal process moved slowly, and in the meantime, I focused on rebuilding my life. Frank, my former colleague and now landlord, introduced me to the manager of Bookmark, a used bookstore specializing in historical texts and academic works. They needed part-time help cataloging new acquisitions, particularly history books. "It's just 20 hours a week," the manager Kevin explained. "But we need someone who knows history and academic books. From what Frank tells me, you're perfect." The job was ideal, providing not only additional income, but intellectual stimulation and new social connections. I found myself enjoying the work, applying my decades of historical knowledge in a new context. The regular customers, many of them academics and history buffs, became a new community. While my legal battle with William progressed, I received an unexpected call from Tyler, my 12-year-old grandson. He had borrowed a friend's phone to contact me, circumventing his parents' apparent restrictions. "Grandpa," his uncertain voice came through the line. "Are you okay? Dad said you were sick and needed special care, but then you disappeared from the nursing home." My heart ached at the confusion in his voice. "I'm fine, Tyler. I'm not sick. There was a disagreement between your dad and me about where I should live." "So you're not dying?" The relief in his voice was palpable. "No, buddy, I am perfectly healthy. I'm even working part-time at a bookstore now." There was a pause. "Dad doesn't tell us much, but I heard him and Mom fighting about you and money and the house. I don't understand what's happening." I chose my words carefully. "Sometimes adults disagree about important decisions. Your dad and I have different ideas about what's best for me at my age. We're sorting it out." "I miss you," Tyler said, simply bringing tears to my eyes. "Sophia does too. She made you a birthday card, but doesn't know where to send it." After that call, I arranged a secret meeting with Tyler and Sophia at a park midway between our homes when they were supposedly at a friend's house. Seeing their faces again, receiving their hugs, was a balm to my wounded spirit. I was careful not to disparage William and Amanda despite their actions. These were their parents, and undermining that relationship would only hurt the children. "Your dad and I will work things out," I assured them. "In the meantime, know that I love you both very much, and none of this is your fault." As our court date approached, William made an unexpected move. He showed up at my cottage one evening alone. "How did you find me?" I asked, not inviting him in. "This community isn't that big, Dad," he replied, looking tired and less confident than I remembered. "People talk. Can we speak privately?" I reluctantly let him in, keeping the door open. William took in the modest space so different from my former home with an unreadable expression. "You walked away from a luxury retirement community for this," he finally said. "I chose freedom and dignity over forced confinement, yes," I replied evenly. William sighed heavily, sinking onto my couch uninvited. "This has gone too far. The lawyers, the accusations. What do you want Dad to see me arrested to ruin my life?" "I want what's mine returned to me," I stated simply. "The remaining proceeds from my house, control of my own finances, and acknowledgement of the wrong you've done." "The house money is mostly gone," he admitted. "We paid for 2 years at Sunny Pines up front. That was nearly half. Then there were some debts, Amanda's new car. You spent my money on a new car for Amanda." The audacity still had the power to shock me. William had the grace to look embarrassed. Things got out of hand. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. "How is it supposed to happen, William? Tell me that." He struggled to meet my gaze. "You were supposed to accept it. Be grateful. Most residents eventually accept their new circumstances. The social director said so." "I'm not most residents," I reminded him. "I'm your father. The man who raised you, who taught you right from wrong." "We were underwater financially," William blurted out. "Amanda's real estate business has been struggling. My company did layoffs last year and I took a pay cut. The kids' private school tuition keeps rising. When you had that fall, it seemed like an opportunity." The callousness of viewing my vulnerability as their financial opportunity left me speechless momentarily. "Amanda pushed for it," he continued, seeking to deflect blame. "She found out about the equity in your house, said it was wasted on one old man, that the money could secure our family's future. So you chose her plan over my welfare," I summarized. "Chose money over your own father." "It wasn't like that," he protested weakly. "It was exactly like that," I countered. "And now you're facing the consequences." William leaned forward, suddenly earnest. "Dad, please. If this goes to court, if there are criminal charges, I could lose my job, my professional license, everything. You should have considered that before selling my house from under me." "What if I make it right?" he offered desperately. "I can get a loan, pay back what I can. We can come to an arrangement outside of court." I studied my son, seeing both the desperate man before me and the boy I had raised. Despite everything, he was still my child. "Here's what's going to happen," I said firmly. "You will return every penny remaining from the house sale. You will sign documents relinquishing any claim to financial control over me or my assets. You will provide a full accounting of what was done with my possessions. And you will acknowledge in writing what you did and why it was wrong." "And the criminal charges?" he asked anxiously. "I'll discuss that with my attorney," I said, unwilling to promise anything. "Your cooperation will factor into my decision." William nodded quickly. "I'll do it. All of it." "Amanda won't like it, but this isn't about what Amanda likes," I interrupted. "This is about righting a terrible wrong. And William, after this is settled, we need to have a serious conversation about your marriage and priorities." He left shortly after, promising to contact his attorney about settlement terms. I wasn't naive enough to fully trust his sudden cooperation, but it seemed at least possible that this might resolve without the full ordeal of a trial. Jennifer was skeptical when I reported the conversation. "Abusers often act remorseful when cornered," she warned. "Let's see what his attorney actually proposes before getting hopeful." 2 days later, we received a formal settlement offer. William would return the remaining funds, approximately 40% of my house's sale price. He would relinquish all claims to act on my behalf financially or medically. In exchange, I would drop potential criminal charges. "It's less than ideal," Jennifer admitted as we reviewed the offer. "You're still losing most of the value of your house, but a trial would be costly, emotionally draining, and there's never a guarantee." After careful consideration and discussions with Eleanor and my other advisors, I accepted the settlement with one additional condition: William would need to attend financial counseling and family therapy. I still held out hope that he could learn from this terrible episode, that some form of relationship might eventually be rebuilt, especially for the sake of my grandchildren. The settlement was finalized the following week. William appeared subdued at the signing, Amanda notably absent. I learned later that my standoff had created significant tension in their marriage, with Amanda blaming William for capitulating. Their financial situation remained precarious, though that was no longer my concern or responsibility. With the legal battle concluded, I could finally focus fully on rebuilding my life. The returned funds, while far less than the full value of my home, provided enough to secure my future. I continued working at Bookmark, finding satisfaction in the work and community there. Eleanor and I grew closer, our shared experience creating a bond that gradually blossomed into something deeper. The most surprising development came 3 months after the settlement, when William arrived at my door one Sunday morning. He was alone, looked tired, and carried a small wooden box I recognized immediately, one I had made in my workshop years ago. "I found this in the garage," he said by way of greeting. "It was overlooked when the house was cleared out. I thought you might want it back." I invited him in, accepting the box that contained mementos from my teaching years, including notes from former students. "Thank you," I said simply, setting it carefully on my shelf. "Would you like some coffee?" He nodded, seemingly surprised by the offer. As I prepared the coffee, William looked around my now more furnished and personalized cottage. "You've made this place nice," he observed. "It suits you somehow." "It's home now," I agreed, handing him a mug. "Not what I would have chosen, but I've made it mine." There was an awkward silence before William spoke again. "Amanda moved out last month. We're getting divorced." Though not entirely surprised, I was taken aback by his directness. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Don't be," he said with unexpected bitterness. "The financial counseling you insisted on revealed a lot. She's been hiding spending, maxing out cards I didn't know existed. What happened with you?" "It was extreme, but not out of character for her, apparently." I chose my next words carefully. Difficult situations often reveal people's true characters, for better or worse. "I've been seeing a therapist like you required," William continued, "trying to understand how I could have done what I did to you, how I could have betrayed my own father so completely." "And what have you learned?" I asked, genuinely curious. He looked down at his coffee. "That I lost myself somewhere along the way, became so focused on maintaining appearances, on the lifestyle Amanda wanted, that I compromised everything I once believed in." He looked up, eyes shining with unshed tears. "Including the values you and Mom taught me." It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. While it couldn't erase the pain or immediately restore trust, it opened a door that I had feared permanently closed. William wasn't asking for quick forgiveness or an instant restoration of our relationship, merely a chance to begin making amends. "The kids ask about you," he said as he prepared to leave. "They miss their grandpa." "I miss them too," I replied honestly. "They're welcome here any time." "Maybe next weekend," he suggested tentatively. "If you're free." I nodded, allowing myself cautious hope for the first time regarding our fractured relationship. "I'd like that." As William drove away, I reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past months, from betrayal to homelessness, from fight to resolution, from isolation to community. The path had been painful beyond words, but it had led to unexpected gifts, new purpose, new relationships, and perhaps eventually a healthier relationship with my son built on truth rather than obligation. The next chapter of my life would be written on my own terms. That was a victory worth all the struggle. 2 years have passed since that Sunday morning when William and Amanda drove me to Sunny Pines under false pretenses. At 69, my life looks nothing like what I had imagined for my retirement years, yet in many ways, it has become richer than I could have anticipated. My cottage is no longer a temporary refuge, but a true home. I've painted the walls in warm colors, planted a small but thriving garden in the backyard, and set up a modest workshop in the attached shed where I continue my woodworking. It's nothing like the colonial I shared with Martha for decades, but it carries its own charm, and most importantly represents my independence and resilience. The most unexpected joy has been my relationship with Eleanor. What began as an alliance forged in shared adversity gradually evolved into deep friendship and eventually love. 6 months ago, at ages 69 and 67, we had a simple wedding ceremony in the community garden where we first met for coffee after leaving Sunny Pines. Our friends from Bookmark, former colleagues, and even some of the more supportive staff from the retirement home attended. William and the grandchildren were there too, a sign of our slowly healing relationship. Eleanor moved into the cottage with me, bringing her legal mind, sharp wit, and remarkable resilience. Together, we've created a partnership I never expected to find again after Martha's passing. Different from my first marriage, but equally valuable and life-affirming. My work at Bookmark evolved from a part-time job into a passion. Kevin, recognizing my knowledge and connection with customers, eventually offered me a partnership in the business. We've expanded the historical section and started hosting monthly lectures and discussion groups that have become quite popular in the community. My YouTube channel, History with Rodney, where I share stories from American history and occasionally my own experiences now, has over 50,000 subscribers, primarily other seniors and history enthusiasts. The settlement money from William, combined with my pension and Social Security, provided enough to establish a scholarship fund in Martha's name at the high school where I taught. Each year, it helps 2 students with financial need attend college. Reviewing the applications and meeting these bright young people has become one of my greatest joys. William's life has changed dramatically as well. After his divorce from Amanda was finalized, he was forced to downsize and reassess his priorities. The financial counseling revealed the extent of their money problems, much of which stemmed from Amanda's spending habits and status anxiety. He lost his position at the financial firm when the details of his actions toward me became known in our community, a consequence I hadn't anticipated but couldn't shield him from. After several months of unemployment and therapy, William found work with a nonprofit organization helping families navigate financial hardships, a position with less prestige and lower pay than his corporate job, but offering something his previous career had lacked meaning and purpose. The irony isn't lost on either of us that he now helps prevent the very type of financial crisis that led him to betray me. Our relationship has been rebuilt slowly and cautiously. Trust once shattered doesn't return quickly or easily. We began with supervised visits with Tyler and Sophia, progressed to occasional dinners, and eventually to a point where William comes by the cottage weekly to help with projects or simply talk. The conversations are sometimes difficult, often healing and necessary for both of us. Tyler, now 14, has developed a passion for woodworking, spending hours in my small workshop learning the skills my father taught me and I once taught William. Sophia, 11, loves helping in the garden and listening to stories about her grandmother. They stay with me and Eleanor one weekend each month, building the bonds that were nearly severed by their parents' actions. Amanda has largely disappeared from our lives, remarrying quickly after the divorce and moving to another state. She maintains minimal contact with the children, another painful reality they're learning to navigate with the support of their father therapists and grandparents. I still visit Sunny Pines occasionally, not as a resident, but as a visitor and advocate. Hank remains there by choice, and our friendship continues. Jose still works security and keeps me updated on conditions at the facility. Together with Eleanor and several community organizations, we've established a support group for seniors facing housing insecurity or family financial exploitation. My experience has been channeled into something constructive, helping others avoid or escape similar situations. I've testified before our city council about the need for stronger protections for elderly residents, shared my story on local news programs, and written a small book titled Standing Strong, Protecting Your Independence in Your Golden Years. The betrayal I experienced forced me to confront difficult questions about family aging, self-worth, and resilience. It stripped away my possessions and security, but revealed strengths I hadn't known I possessed and brought people into my life who value me for who I am, not what I own. Last month, William approached me with an unexpected proposal. He's been saving to help me buy a house again, a modest place, but one with enough room for my workshop and garden. It won't replace what was taken, he acknowledged, but it might be a step toward making things right. I appreciated the gesture but declined. This cottage is my home now, I explained. Eleanor and I have made it ours. A bigger house wouldn't make me happier than I already am. His expression reflected both disappointment and understanding. I'll never stop trying to make amends, he said quietly. I know, I replied. That matters more than any house. As I sit in my garden watching Eleanor tend to her herbs while Tyler works on a birdhouse in the shed and Sophia reads on the porch swing, I reflect on the extraordinary journey these past 2 years have been. From the depths of betrayal and loss to this moment of peace and belonging. The path hasn't been easy or straight. There have been legal battles, tears, confrontations, and difficult truths. But there has also been discovery, growth, new beginnings, and yes, even forgiveness, though carefully measured and earned through actions rather than words. What William and Amanda did was unforgivable in many ways. The home and possessions I lost can never be fully replaced, But their actions intended to diminish me instead led to an unexpected rebirth. In trying to discard me as inconvenient and outdated, they inadvertently pushed me into a new chapter filled with purpose, love, and community. Perhaps that is the most valuable lesson of this journey, that at any age we retain the capacity to reinvent ourselves, to find strength in adversity, to build families of choice when blood ties fail us, and to create meaning from even our most painful experiences. If you're facing a similar betrayal or challenge, I hope my story offers some measure of hope and practical guidance. Remember that age is not synonymous with helplessness, that isolation is the enemy of justice, and that there are always people willing to help if you reach out. Have you ever had to reinvent yourself after a betrayal or major life change? How did you find the strength to move forward? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if this resonated with you, and share with anyone who might need encouragement during difficult times. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, it's never too late for a new beginning.